Poland reports shooting down suspected Russian drones in its airspace today. It's the first time a NATO member is known to have fired shots during the war in Ukraine. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pasdar has the latest.
Russian drones reportedly entered Polish airspace on Wednesday. Poland says it shot them down with the backing of military aircraft from its NATO allies. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says it's the closest the country has been to open conflict since World War II.
We are most likely dealing with a large-scale provocation. But at the same time, we are in consultation with our allies. I am in constant contact with the NATO Secretary General.
The Prime Minister activated Article 4 of NATO's treaty, under which alliance members can demand consultation with their allies. The head of NATO says the organization is still assessing the situation.
A full assessment of the incident is ongoing. What is clear is that the violation last night is not an isolated incident.
Russia, meanwhile, denies the allegations. The country's defense ministry issued a statement saying its drones carried out a major attack on military facilities in western Ukraine, adding that it had not planned to hit any targets in Poland. The incident comes just a few days after a meeting between President Trump and the President of Poland. Some US troops are stationed in Poland. During the meeting, Trump was asked if the soldiers are scheduled to stay there.
If anything, we'll put more there if they want, but they've long wanted to have a larger presence. We have some countries that have more, not too many, but no, they'll be staying in Poland. We're very much aligned with Poland.
Trump also reacted to the incident on Wednesday, saying, "What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go." Arian Pasdar, NTD News.
Joining us now to discuss Poland's announcement that it shot down Russian drones in its airspace is Jim Gilmore, former U.S. ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. He's also the former governor of Virginia. So, Ambassador, good afternoon to you. Can you talk to us about how significant is it that a NATO ally, Poland, fired weapons for the first time since the war in Ukraine began?
Well, I think that it's a statement that NATO territory is going to be defended no matter what the violation is. I don't think that it's a hearkening in towards war in Europe, that drone incident. But I think that they ought to approach the Russians right now and say, "What are you doing?" And demand an apology and assurances from the Russians that they're not going to have something like this happen again. I think that there's been some suggestion that this was deliberate. If it was deliberate, once again, I think that what we're really seeing here as a result of it, which the Russians shouldn't want, is a rallying of the NATO countries to each other. The report is here that the air forces of 4 different NATO countries responded. The drones were shot down. We're seeing the countries come together. The Baltic countries begin to say, "Listen, we're concerned about this." And I think that what you're seeing is a drawing together of NATO, even on this one minor incursion. So to me, I don't think that I would overreact, but I think that the Russians are being really stupid to allow something like this to happen.
So you're saying Russia allowed it to happen. Are you saying it was deliberate, or what is your assessment on that front?
Well, I don't have the information to know whether it's deliberate or not. I think that the NATO people have a right to defend themselves, and they're drawing together as a result of this. Article 4 of the NATO agreement is being exercised now by Poland. Poland is a lead state for NATO at the border with the Russian aggression. And it seems to me that the response has been perfectly appropriate and right. I don't think that I would overreact to it, but I think we've got a right to ask the Russians what they think they're doing and demand an apology and reassurances and any compensation necessary. And by the way, I also believe that if I were the NATO people, I would also say, this is part and parcel of your aggression against the neighboring country of Ukraine. If you can attack Ukraine, you could attack us. And we're very concerned about that. So once again, I think you have to continue to put the bug on Russia and their aggression and their violation of international law.
So you're saying if they can attack Ukraine, they can attack us. Prime Minister Donald Tusk said that Poland was closer to a conflict than any time since World War II. What is your take on that statement?
Well, I probably wouldn't have said that. I think that I would be more relaxed about it. But if the goal here is to brush back Russia, then I think that kind of statement should be sending a message to Moscow that Poland and its NATO allies are taking this kind of thing seriously. But in the end, I think that this is an opportunity to reassert the Western position that Russia is an aggressor nation, that they're attempting conquest, that they're committing war crimes, that they're stealing children, they're injecting people into conquered territory, they're annexing without any international authority. And I think in the larger sense, where we're really headed here is Russia and other countries like China and their allies we saw last week are trying to set up a whole new regime for the world, which is based upon power and force and not international law. Well, if that's what we're going to do, the West has all the advantages in something like that, but we're headed down the path towards war, which will be more damaging to Russia than to anybody else.
So what we've seen with the response from NATO, does this instill confidence among members in the alliance?
I think it does. Look what the reaction has been. A joint military response, an exercise of the NATO rules that consultation is going to occur within the Western alliance. Countries coming together. In fact, I understand that even Slovakia and Hungary were put on alert. And, they've been very helpful and favorable towards Russia. But if they're reacting badly to this, that's once again a negative thing for Russia. Russia seems to be doing everything that it can do to destroy itself in this time of crisis. And, right now, I think that we're going to have to stand up to these people and just show that they're not going to be able to get away with the big game, which is the one that's in Ukraine or anything they might be planning in the Baltics or in Poland or anywhere else. Brush them back because they're war crimes. Sooner or later, there's going to have to be some accounting for that. I believe that the Western response ought to be your obligation is to get out of Ukraine, stop these kinds of hybrid war violations like these drones, and surrender your people for trial. Because right now, sooner or later, there's going to have to be an accounting for the war crimes that the Putin regime is perpetrating against its allies, against its neighbors.
Okay, what do you think Putin is most afraid of right now?
I think Putin is testing the West right now. I think that he's on the move. I think he feels like that he is the one who has the advantages. I don't think that he's afraid of anything because he's the one who's trying to do conquest. I guess if I had to use the word fear, it would be this. We know his ultimate objective, and it's not to safeguard Russia. Russia is not in any danger from Ukraine or from NATO, and he knows that. I think maybe his greatest fear ought to be from his own regime and his own people who sooner or later are going to recognize the destructive things that he's doing to his own country. And that would be a real problem. So it seems to me that communication more and more and more to the Russian people and to the Russian regime about the danger of Putin's behavior would be something that he would fear.
Okay, Ambassador, just one more thing I'm wondering here. Is there any risk in your mind that the war may not only be contained in Ukraine?
If Russia and its allies in China and North Korea, and maybe sometimes also Iran, are able to redo the entire international order, where no longer is there restraint and living together for a better future, but instead warfare and force and territorial conquest. If that becomes the order of the day in the 21st century, then of course, naturally, that encourages aggression in other places, like in the Pacific. Right now, I think China is watching this and saying, really, is the attack on Taiwan really worth it? I think that's really the discussion, because even if they succeeded in conquering Taiwan, there would be a tremendous cost to China that they would pay for joining the concert of countries in aggression. And I think that they need to understand that there's a terrible price to be paid. Western resolve right now, like we're seeing right now in the Polish incident, is not only an important message to Russia, it's an important message to China also.
Okay, great points there, Ambassador, you raised today. It's always a pleasure to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.